On this episode of History's Mysteries, we're going to discover some interesting stories or events that happened in the past. Who was legless Jerome of Bay Santa Maria? On September 8, 1863, a mysterious man washed up on the shores of Sandy Cove in Nova Scotia, on the coast of Bay of Fundy. He was remarkably still alive, but both legs had been amputated above the knee, and he could not speak. Acadian families took the man in until his passing in 1912, and the Nova Scotian government provided for his needs. His tombstone simply reads Jerome, the name he supposedly uttered among his occasional grunts throughout his lifetime. Some people believed he was an Italian aristocrat who was tortured before being released, and that he kept his silence to avoid further punishment. Others claimed he was a native of Ireland who had migrated to the U.S. to avoid his family, or that he had suffered debilitating injuries working as a lumberjack. Jerome took his secrets to his grave, and the mystery only evolved from there. While a whirlwind of hypotheses and wild tales of the man had been conjured over the years, who he was, what happened to him, and how he was found upon the beach shores remains a mystery. Who committed the Sandy Borg massacre? In 2010, archaeologists came across an abundance of treasure concealed within Sandy Borg on the coast of Sweden. They discovered valuables including jewelry, bells, and Roman coins, which led them to continue excavating in the following years until they came across a disturbing scene. Buried with the treasure troves were the 1,500-year-old corpses of 26 males, ranging in age from newborn to elderly. The lack of wounds on their forearms suggests the men were entirely unprepared for the attack and unable to defend for themselves. Additionally, many showed apparent signs of being slaughtered from behind. Because none had been properly buried or given any funeral rites, experts believe the people were left exactly as they fell. The massacre occurred during a period known as the Migration, as the Roman Empire collapsed and the Huns invaded Roman lands. However, while the inhabitants of the Iron Age ring fort traded with the Roman Empire, the civilization was never under Roman rule. The jewelry left behind suggests that women also lived within the fort's confines, but their fates are still unknown. Because the community's treasures remained untouched, archaeologists believe the attack was a demonstration of power and control. What was the sweating sickness? As it swept through Europe multiple times from 1485 through 1551, the sweating sickness epidemic caused panic hysteria in royalty and peasant classes alike. To this day, no one knows what the mysterious illness was or where it came from, but modern medicinal professionals suspect it may have been some type of hantavirus or insect-borne arbovirus. Whatever it was, historians think the mercenaries King Henry VII hired to end the War of the Roses may have brought the contagion into England with them. The symptoms seemed to come out of nowhere and progressed rapidly. Initially, people generally experienced anxiety, giddiness, chills and fever, headaches, and prostration. Soon after came extreme sweating, severe headaches, a rapid pulse, and delirium. If someone survived for at least 24 hours, they usually survived. But the mortality rate was high, from 30 to 50%. Unlike the Black Death, no visible signs on an ill person's skins were present, making the illness even more terrifying. The cases seemed to surge after significant rainfall, but also sprung up randomly and without warning. Henry VIII was so frightened by the thought of catching the malady that he slept in a different bed every night in the summer of 1528. Was famed explorer Meriwether Lewis's ending suicide or murder? While on his famous 1804 to 1806 expedition west with William Clark, Meriwether Lewis experienced numerous adventures and became famous for his heroic adventures. Although he was appointed governor of the newly acquired Louisiana Territory upon his return, the explorer found adapting to everyday life quite difficult. Lewis's travels were well documented, but his journal still hadn't entered the publication process 3 years after he returned. He found governing a difficult occupation, making more enemies than friends. Additionally, the U.S. government was beginning to question some of the expenditures along the famous route, leading the broke explorer to believe he may have to pay for his travels out of pocket. When news spread that Lewis had passed in October of 1809, while staying at the Grinder's Stand, a tavern or inn in Tennessee, all signs pointed to the grieved explorer's suicide. Priscilla Grinder, the only witness to the event, claimed she saw 2 gunshots before Lewis cried for help. Apparently afraid of the possible danger, she did not intervene. When servants entered Lewis's room the following morning, they claimed he had suffered 2 bullet wounds to the abdomen and was in the process of carving into himself with a razor blade from head to toe. He perished shortly after. Lewis's troubles were well known, as he had made an attempt on his life previously while traveling to Washington, D.C. However, because Grinder was the only witness, some historians argue it's possible that Lewis was assassinated by Grinder's husband or a group of bandits. Epidemiologist Raimert Thorolf Ravenbolt points that an element that may have been the true culprit, syphilis. Lewis's increasing erratic behavior in the months leading to his passing, his journal entries expressing sudden interest in venereal disease during his travels, and post-mortem evidence of syphilis and mercury, which was used in treatment of the infection, led Ravenholt to his hypothesis.